The moment Malcolm Reed saw her across the rooftop, his champagne stopped halfway to his lips. Imani Brooks stood near the edge of the terrace, backlit by the glittering skyline of Atlanta, wearing a black dress that didn't apologize for anything. She wasn't supposed to be here, not at his birthday party, not in his world anymore. "Baby, who is that?" Janelle Price whispered, her manicured nails pressing into Malcolm's sleeve. "Nobody," he said too quickly. "Just someone from before." But Imani wasn't looking at him. Her eyes tracked someone moving through the crowd, and when Malcolm followed her gaze, his stomach dropped. Darius Whitmore, the billionaire investor who'd been circling his company for months like a shark that never showed its teeth. The man whose signature on a single document could make or destroy empires before breakfast. Malcolm watched, frozen, as Darius crossed the entire party, past the mayor, past tech journalists, past everyone who mattered, and stopped in front of Imani like she was the only person in the room. 4 years ago, everything had been different. Back then, Malcolm and Imani worked in a warehouse space on the west side of Atlanta that smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. 17 startups crammed into converted storage units, everyone convinced they'd be the next big thing. "It's not working," Malcolm had said, staring at his laptop screen at 2 in the morning. "We're hemorrhaging money on inventory that doesn't move and losing customers because we can't get them what they need fast enough." Imani had looked up from her own screen, her natural curls pulled back in his silk scarf, eyes tired but sharp. "Let me see the flow patterns." 3 weeks later, she'd built something nobody else had thought possible. A prediction engine that learned from chaos, that turned logistics nightmares into seamless choreography. "This is incredible," Malcolm had breathed, watching the test run. "Imani, you're a genius." She smiled. "We're a team. That's what makes it work." He'd kissed her, tasting coffee and hope and the future they were building together. The first investor pitch should have been their moment. Malcolm stood backstage, his presentation loaded on Imani's laptop, the one with all her notes, her diagrams, the architecture only she truly understood. "You ready?" she'd asked, adjusting his tie the way she always did before important meetings. "We're ready," he'd said. But when the moment came, when the lights hit and the investors leaned forward in their chairs, Malcolm walked out alone. "Good morning. I'm Malcolm Reed, and I'm about to show you the future of logistics." In the back row, Imani had gone very still. He'd presented her system as his breakthrough, her algorithms as his innovation, her sleepless nights as his vision. Afterwards, she'd waited for him in the parking garage. "What happened in there?" "We killed it," Malcolm said, loosening his tie, still high on adrenaline. "They're interested, real money. Imani, this could be it." "Why didn't you mention me?" "I did. I said we and our team." "You said my breakthrough. You said I developed it. Imani, I built that entire system." He sighed like she was being difficult. "And you're a critical part of the team. But investors don't bet on partnerships, Imani. They bet on a singular vision, one face, one story. That's how this works." "So I'm what, your assistant now?" "You're my wife and my co-founder. But when I'm up there, I need them to see confidence, certainty, not a committee." It happened again and again and again. Press interviews where he was the genius founder and she was his talented wife who helped with technical matters. Board meetings where her innovations became his strategic decisions. Patent applications filed under his name alone. The night she found the patent documents, Imani sat at the kitchen table until dawn. When Malcolm came down for coffee, she slid the folder across to him. "Explain this." He barely glanced at it. "It's standard procedure. The company holds the IP. I'm listed as primary inventor because I'm CEO. I created that system, Malcolm. And the company will compensate you fairly. This is business, Imani. This is how we protect what we've built." "What you've built?" she'd said quietly. "That's what you mean, isn't it? Somewhere along the way, it stopped being ours and became yours. Don't be dramatic. I want a divorce." The word had hit the kitchen like a physical thing. The divorce lawyer had been gentle but clear. "You won't get much.
The patents are filed under the company. Your contributions are documented, but legally classified as work product. We can fight it, but it'll cost more than you'll win." Imani had signed most of the paperwork without reading it, but before she did, she'd added one paragraph buried in Section 7, subsection C, in the kind of legal language that made eyes glaze over. In recognition of ongoing utilization of proprietary systems and intellectual property developed by I. Brooks during marriage, contingent equity of 18% shall be activated on any major capital event, including but not limited to acquisition, restructuring, or Series C investment exceeding $50 million. Malcolm's lawyer barely scanned it. The company, Reed Flow Logistics, was worth almost nothing then. It was bleeding cash, surviving on hope and fumes. They'd signed. Imani walked away with her dignity and a clause nobody thought would ever matter. Now, standing on this rooftop 4 years later in downtown Atlanta, she watched Darius Whitmore approach her with the kind of smile that knew exactly how much everything was worth. "Ms. Brooks," he said, his voice carrying despite the music and chatter, "I've been looking forward to meeting you." Behind them, Malcolm's party continued oblivious, but Malcolm himself had gone completely still. Darius didn't shake him on his hand. He took it, turned it over, and examined her fingers like he was reading a story written in calluses and ink stains. "These are the hands that built the adaptive flow engine. I'd recognize that architecture anywhere." Imani tilted her head. "Most people don't look that closely. Most people are idiots."
He released her hand. "I've spent 6 months trying to figure out how Reed Flow predicts demand curves that shouldn't be predictable. The math was too elegant, too intuitive. It didn't fit Malcolm's profile at all, and now I know why." Across the terrace, Malcolm abandoned Janelle and moved toward them, his face arranged in a careful mask of professional courtesy. "I also found something else," Darius continued, lowering his voice. "A clause in your divorce settlement that I think you've been waiting very patiently for someone to trigger." Imani's expression didn't change. "And did you?" 3 days ago, Series C funding, $65 million. The paperwork clears tomorrow." Malcolm arrived with his hand extended, smile blazing. "Darius, I didn't know you'd be here tonight. What a pleasant surprise." Darius ignored the offered hand. "I came to meet your ex-wife. I have a habit of identifying the actual talent in any organization." The smile on Malcolm's face froze. Janelle appeared at his elbow. "Baby, what's going on?" "Nothing," Malcolm said tightly. "Just business talk." Inside, the venue's main room had been quietly rearranged. A small podium stood where the birthday cake had been. Screens flashed to life. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host announced, "we have a special presentation from tonight's sponsor, Darius Whitmore." The crowd filed in, curious. Darius stepped to the podium like he owned the air itself. "I believe in correcting errors when I find them, and I found a significant one." On the screens, code began to scroll, complex, beautiful, unmistakable. "This is the adaptive flow engine, the system that powers Reed Flow Logistics, the system that convinced me to invest $65 million 3 days ago." He paused. "This system was created by Imani Brooks." Old photos filled the screens. Imani in front of whiteboards covered in her handwriting, her fingerprints on every innovation. Not Malcolm Reed, not the company's development team. One woman working night after night solving problems entire departments couldn't crack. Malcolm tried to speak. "This is completely inappropriate." "What's inappropriate," Darius said calmly, "is theft. The theft of credit, of recognition, of truth." He looked directly at Malcolm. "When I invested in Reed Flow Logistics, I triggered a clause in your divorce settlement, a clause that recognizes Imani's contributions and grants her 18% equity upon major capital investment." The room erupted. "As of tomorrow morning, Imani Brooks is officially the second largest shareholder in this company." Silence fell heavy. Imani walked to the podium. "I didn't come here for revenge," she said. "I came because Darius sent me a note this morning that said I deserved to hear the toast. I didn't know what he meant. I didn't know what he'd planned." She looked at Malcolm. 4 years ago, you told me investors don't bet on partnerships. They bet on one face, one story. You were right about that, but you chose the wrong face."
Malcolm's voice broke. "We can fix this." "No," she said simply. "I don't want to work with you. I want what's mine. The recognition, the equity, the truth." She turned to the crowd. "I'm not here to destroy ReadFlow. I'm here to correct the record. That engine, that breakthrough, it was mine, and from now on, everyone will know it." Darius stepped beside her. "As of tomorrow morning, Imani Brooks will take an active leadership role in development. Her name will appear on every patent, every presentation, every piece of press." Janelle clutched Malcolm's arm, confused and shaken. Malcolm stood frozen in the center of the room that had been meant to celebrate him. His birthday party had become his reckoning. Outside, the Atlanta night air was cool and clean. "You didn't have to do that," Imani said quietly. "Yes, I did," Darius replied. "I've built my career identifying real value. When I found your work, I knew it was rare." He opened the car door for her. "And the rest?" she asked. "The rest is simple," he said. "You go back to building, solving, changing the world. Only this time, everyone knows your name." She glanced back once at the rooftop lights, at the life she had outgrown. Then she looked forward and smiled. Because it wasn't revenge, it was restoration. It wasn't destruction, it was correction. And sometimes, the most powerful thing a black woman can do in a room that tried to erase her is stand still and let the truth speak. In the weeks that followed, the story spread beyond Atlanta. Tech blogs, business magazines, podcasts. The narrative shifted. Interviews were rewritten. Panels were rescheduled. Imani didn't gloat. She didn't rant. She didn't explain herself twice. She just worked. And every time someone introduced her as the architect of the adaptive flow engine, she nodded like she had known all along that the truth would surface. Because she had. She bet on herself, and she bet smarter. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments what moment hit you the hardest. Was it the divorce clause? The rooftop reveal? The quiet way she said no? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe so you will always get notified when we post more stories like this.